Hey guys, I'm not dead, so that's cool. I'm at lunch break actually at my house, and I have a problem. And my problem, I have a few problems, if you can't tell by the way I make videos. And also there's all this. This is a problem too. But that's a separate issue. There's very little I can do about that. There are probably two very popular ways to understand Genesis 1, and I think they're both wrong. The young Earth creationist view, I think, is wrong for a number of reasons, not the least of which is it reads Scripture in a way that contradicts Scripture and makes it not make any sense. Never minding the science, I don't care about that. And then there's people like Hugh Ross who have an old Earth creation view. And I'm going to see if I can hook up with some buddies of mine that have both of those views, and I'm going to have mine. And we're going to see if we can hash it out. Friendly like. But the biggest problem that I have with Hugh Ross's view in particular is that he wants to take the days, he's like a day age theorist, right? So like Genesis has the right order of everything, and it's all correct and all that. The days are not literal, and therefore there's an indeterminate amount of time between each day. And that's great, except that I actually agree with the young Earth creationists that any fair reading of Genesis requires us to believe that the days are literal 24-hour days. That argument is very strong to me. That argument is very, very strong. I don't think it's talking about material creation, but the argument of the days I think is very strong for them. But the problem isn't so much for me that Hugh Ross thinks that the days might be longer. Theoretically, they could be. They could be. I don't think that they are, because there are other verses in the Bible that speak of them as being very much like 24-hour days. But my problem with Hugh Ross's view is that he takes particular bits of the creation narrative and he reads into them a scientific theory. Now, the young Earth creationists also do this, just in a different way. And the problem that I have with him doing that is that it flies completely in the face of how fundamentally I interpret Scripture. And I think fundamentally how historically we have approved of interpreting Scripture. And fundamentally it goes against any reasonable interpretation of anything. So I do not believe that it is a sound hermeneutic principle ever to interpret anything in Scripture that requires knowledge after the fact, or knowledge that the author otherwise could not have had at the time without special revelation from God. What do I mean by that? Well, Hugh Ross thinks that when the Earth is talked about as being covered in deep water, he's thinking, hey, there used to be a giant ocean over the whole Earth, and it was frozen and such, and that's what we're going with. And when he's talking about, God creating land masses and whatnot, he's talking about, well, that's tectonic plate activity, and that's the masses, this took a long time, but eventually it happened and so forth. And, the plates are pushing against one another, and, friction and whatnot's all going on, making mountains and valleys and islands and volcanic activity and all sorts of stuff's going on there. The problem that I have with that is that there is a 0% chance that not only did the author not have that in his head at the time, no one else in all of antiquity had that in their head at the time either. We know this because we have other creation narratives. Often, 6 days of creation and the seventh day of rest, at least in Mesopotamian myths, but even if you go to Egyptian or whatever else, and the time doesn't really matter that much, but you can see how they envisioned the world to be. And it may not have been a perfectly literal, like, oh, if you keep going this far, you will definitely hit this understanding of the world, but it was the understanding of the world that they commonly had at the time. And at no point in that understanding of the world were land masses thought to be the product of magma and lava and volcanic activity and, huge rock plates that are miles thick pushing up against each other. That wasn't in their head. They would not have understood that at all. So, if you want me to believe that, then what you are asking me to do is you're asking me to believe that God revealed in a very obtuse fashion real scientific truth about plate tectonics 4,000 plus years ago, depending. I mean, the writing isn't quite that old, but the story easily could be. And somehow did not find it anywhere in his cognizance to then explain that tectonic theory such that for several thousand years anyone had a clue what he was talking about. He wanted to announce scientific fact of how he created the universe, but not give anyone sufficient knowledge to understand that's what he was doing. That's what you want me to believe. I don't. I'm sorry, but that makes no sense. I don't think God ever tells literally anyone anything that they don't understand within their own context at the time he's telling them. Perhaps with the lone exception of prophecy. But that, I think, he intends on keeping secret on purpose. Everything else is about something else. It's about understanding our relationship to him or with each other or our place in the world and what we're supposed to do. It's very function-based. It's not meant to help us have nuclear power plants or automobiles. It's not to push us forward with technology and understanding of the scientific truths of how he developed the world. He's not telling us anything in the Bible that'll help us reach a distant neutron star and take a sample out of some material that doesn't even exist, at all right now, and understand the forces that would allow us, and help us, manipulate the forces and so forth that would get us there to do the thing. No, none of that's happening. None of that is happening in the Bible. He's talking to Bronze and Iron Age people so that they will understand something about himself and themselves. That's it. That's the entire Bible. Now, the truths that he is telling them are timeless, but they need to be understood to be their truths in their time that we can then interpret for our time. And it's a very different thing than what Hugh Ross and company are attempting to do. And I find it endlessly annoying. I find it supremely annoying that there are people who are trying to suss out undeniable, like germ theory from Bible verses. It's not what it's for. Stop abusing the Bible, please.